purchasing manager, what are these dialogues? I mean, obviously the city is going through some interesting times, of course, and there are challenges for every municipality. What are some of the challenges that you think you're facing right now with your department or with you personally in terms of your position?
So with our position, you're constantly dealing with all different types of people, all different realms of work that they're doing. So part of it is like being able to dialogue with the person, get the needs, what is the end result you want versus tell me what you need. You know what I mean? It's not tell me what you need, but what do you want to get out of this more? That's the conversation that tends to work the best, at least for me, is like how at the end of the day this widget is what you wanted. How do we get there? And that's the journey, is how to get there. So
let's talk about that for a second. So the journey. Barbara doesn't wake up one morning and says, I think I'm going to be I suppose in this particular instance, as you're kind of looking through and you're saying, look, I'm a purchasing manager with the city of Banning. How did Barbara get to this stage in her life?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Oh, I'm glad. Okay.
Definitely. So one of the things that's very interesting, if you ever go to a procurement training or a conference, you'll find out there's nobody that grew up and said, I want to be a purchasing manager, I want to be a buyer, I want to be a contract specialist. Nobody, because it's not a lawyer, it's not a doctor, it's not a veterinarian. So part of the journey is like you find the need, right? So I am an accountant, so I worked actually in strategic programs at one of my positions I had formerly, and it kind of fit into, we helped many of the departments, as I do now, just solving problems and getting to point A to Z, right? But no one says, oh, I want to be a purchasing, but I kind of fell into it by helping with some of the programs like P card, and then they didn't have a contract specialist.
Can you explain, what is a P card? Because one of the former municipalities I worked for, we called them P cards, but could you explain to us what that is exactly?
So it's basically it's a credit card, but they call it a procurement card.
Okay.
And its realm is in the government agencies. So it can be very robust as far as compliance with it, and usually they have their policies, and we're very structured on what we can do and what we can't.
Policies, regulations, rules, all of it in between. It's changing constantly, isn't it?
Always.
So your department's constantly having to keep up to date with the latest of what's happening from the state and federal level, I assume.
Correct. So we have the new CARB initiative, which is basically having the emissions, how it is, are they going to be electric vehicle, what percentage of your fleet has to be, what does your agency fall into that rules and structures. And we luckily here at City of Banning, we have very, very knowledgeable departments in that aspect. So it's basically a touchstone with each other to filter out what policy or what guideline is and regulation is hitting us, or I shouldn't say hitting us, but is applying to us. Okay. So,
and I know we did a segment, sometime back where we introduced a new electric bus that's being put into rotation, and I think it's exciting as the city is kind of looking forward. And some things, of course, are mandated. Some things we're having to kind of meet those requirements, and then in other cases, it seems like we can be fairly progressive and kind of look ahead the next 5 to 10 years and say, this is where we need to be, and let's start the process now. Is it the same kind of process with your department?
Absolutely. So there's a new, like we had traditional procurement, you must do it this way, and then for so many years, but now there's things coming out like, I'll say reverse auctions, meaning that normally your bid goes higher and higher and higher. Reverse auction is you start where your last contract was, and then the vendors or distributors
see if
go
they can
down
beat that
under.
price, maybe?
Yes, beat the price.
That makes sense.
And there's no what they call sniping. It's there where they can't just submit a low bid at the last minute. That really restarts the clock and actually gives the other bidders an opportunity to come under that price until you're at to where saying, okay, that's it for me. I can't do anymore. But you always want it to be a win-win situation when you're working with your vendors, because you want them to stay in business so they can continue to supply you. So you're always trying to make sure that we're moving forward to where it's beneficial to the vendor and the city as well, best value. So that's our ultimate goal.
Going back to Barbara's history. So Barbara is leaving high school, she's entering college. Your major is accounting?
Yes.
And which school did you go to, by the way?
So I was in Florida at the time, so I went to the local community college, then I moved to the University of West Florida.
Okay.
Say that right.
And from Florida, now are you a native Floridian, or are you originally from California, or where are you from
Yeah,
originally?
Oceanside, California.
Okay, that's
and
excellent.
And then Hemet eventually, but
Okay.
yeah, so.
You went to Florida, you studied there, and then you came back to California at some
after
point.
many
And
years.
what was kind of the process in between? Obviously, you said accounting standards have changed. Things have kind of changed through the years, but have you found in particular that your career field has become a little bit more challenging in the sense that you have technology, applications, other things that are more computerized, I suppose?
Oh, absolutely. So I think in my personal opinion, we're trying to catch up to the standards, and I think the county field is actually helping with that. I believe it's GASB 96. Don't quote me on that, but so there's certain ones that you make sure you complying with the financial aspects of those guidelines, the truly accepted standards. But we want to make sure we're always in compliance with that, and we're looking forward, and how do you fairly bid out kind of very unique technologies that are out there to still be in place with the bidding compliance. So it's a little bit of a challenge, and that's probably been the most up and coming on that, but there's other aspects and ever-changing items, so.
Young people wanting to enter a career field, is accounting an area that you would say, I highly recommend young people to look into accounting? But what about comfortability with math and analytics and statistics and all of that? It can be a little overwhelming sometimes.
It can be, but I do think that accounting or a little bit of financial background will help you with whatever you're doing, because no matter what, if you move into any type of supervisor position or managerial, or even just where you're at, you still have to abide by a budget. You have to understand how the policy works, what a fiscal year means. So you kind of give
Like real life.
Yeah, real
Like we
life.
have a budget,
Yeah,
right? We have a
You
paycheck,
gotta
we have a
balance-
budget,
yes,
right, okay.
Can't overspend your
Right.
can't. You can, I know. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Not recommended. But it's really helped. I think that goes well with others. But procurement, I feel like the push in the field itself is trying to get more of an eye on that, because we are really needing that position. A lot of people are retiring out now. So the door is kind of open to that field. I know certain, I want to say County of San Diego is doing a good effort to get some education out there in classes. And there are now a couple of procurement type degrees you can get. But like I said, you hold up your hands to anybody wanted to be a procurement professional when they started out. You're not going to see any hands in the room.
Right, sure.
But it's a very rewarding field because it's very diverse too. Like there's a lot to learn, but there's a lot to experience. It's very rewarding. It's nice to work with different people and try to get them to a successful point,
Sure.
in the bidding process or project.
Barbara, how do you think the processes vary, if there is any, from a private sector to a public municipality sector? Are there differences in the process, the accounting, the procurements, et cetera? I'm assuming that in the public sector, we have a lot of rules and regulations that govern us.
Absolutely. We definitely do. One of the things that we incur a lot of is that, much easier private, right? But you still have to either adhere to a budget, and you're always
Sure.
checking on your profit line. Well, in the city government, you're always looking for best value. What's going to get, the best value to the city, and that's the standard you're looking for. Plus, you have procurement standards to uphold. There's lots of rulings. There's lots of regulation for that, and it's varied from public contracting code to the uniform code. And your own city or agency code. So there's a lot of rules to follow, but like I said, it's a very rewarding process once you get to the, you know what I mean, when you're there, and you have to, it's very diverse. So the city here itself has many different departments, that we support in as far as purchasing goes. So police, fire, parks, rec,
Sure.
fleet, transit.
I kind of see administrative services definitely as the, maybe the gatekeepers for our public stewards, as well as the council and the dynamics of city management, but for public tax dollars. I mean, there's constantly an effort to conserve, to use public tax dollars the best that we can and
Right.
get the biggest bang for our buck. and making certain that we are good stewards of the taxpayers' money. In terms of what you do as far as your position, how would you say, is that kind of the banner or the guiding standard, that you're always wanting to make certain that we are utilizing taxpayers' dollars to the best benefit we can?
Right, yes, absolutely, and we are always conscious of that. Anytime do we need this, is this a want, a need, or a must, right? And many of it is musts, of course, but we also have to operate understanding that there's some things the regulations, the processes we go through, prevailing wage, those type of things they're just part of being government. So those costs are inherent, and so unfortunately,
there's not much you can do with
not
those.
much we can do with that, but we do our best value. We look at what's going to benefit the city the best, and always cognizant of, it's the taxpayer dollars that are funding this, so we want to make sure that we're cognizant of that the entire time.
So one of my last questions for you, and I get is, what are some of the things that you like to do in your spare time? Hobbies, interests, anything to that effect?
Oh, yeah, silly. I'm trying to get back to the gym, which I believe everybody is, but
absolutely.
Hiking, I love hiking. I have a bum knee right now, but that'll hopefully subside and
beautiful
get back
trails
out there.
around this area.
It is gorgeous. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised when I looked at the beautiful mountains here in the city of Banning. I was awestruck going, this is amazing, this view. As you drive down the 10, you don't get to see it, but once you stop and look around, you're like, this is a really beautiful city here.
Yeah, it's very impressive, isn't it?
It's very impressive.
So you like to hike?
I do love to hike.
What sports? What are your favorite teams? Anything like that?
I am a diehard Raiders fan, but we've been that for years, and which was a very difficult team to be with when you're sitting in Florida. But we had a still pocket of Raider fans. It was beautiful. So generally that's the main team we follow, other than, there's the Yankees or baseball, which is not always the most popular, but they're fun to watch.
Absolutely, absolutely. Barbara, last question for you.
Yeah.
In terms of where the city is right now, its position, as we're looking to the future, are you feeling that there's a sense of optimism as we're looking to the future, just in terms of what your department's doing, the direction we're going?
Yeah, absolutely. There's just so many opportunities. I feel like if you think you're good where you're at, you're going to be stagnant.
That's a good point.
So we would just always look for the better way, look for the most. Again, I go back to the city, the best value, because you want to do processes that are inherently going to be forward-thinking and stay within parameters of regulation, of course. But to continually look for improvement, streamlining processes, making sure that the processes we have are the best that we could do with where we're at, and then look at where could we be in the future. Like I said, reverse engineering, or it's not reverse engineering. Sorry.
No, sometimes reverse engineering is the way to go. Right?
But the reverse bid.
I think
there's
that's
e-bonding.
fascinating.
Like there's certain things like that we brought on, that COVID brought on, like DocuSign. Well, that all of a sudden became, or not all of a sudden, but it became where we could sign documents, virtually, digitally and authenticated, which sped the process up immensely and saved many dollars. We did a study on that in my last agency.
So it's interesting you said COVID. So in some ways, that did actually help to streamline the process a little bit, because we were living in a completely different world.
Absolutely, and one of the big, most agencies went this way, was they were, standing in the middle of the, pre-COVID, we're standing in the middle of our lobby, they're ripping up in the bidder envelopes and saying who's the lowest bidder, and that took not only our time here, but also the vendor time. Now it's all electronic, and most agencies are that way, already have e-procurement, and e-signatures followed in COVID for sure. There's e-bonding, that's an opportunity. Again, that's a compliance thing. It's there, but can we use it due to compliance is the question. So there's future things that, also reverse engineer, or reverse auctions, I'm going to get stuck on that. But we have to get it into our code, or our procedures and policies, to make sure that we can use them and it's accepted. So,
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Barbara, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
For this Employee Spotlight segment. We greatly appreciate it, and we really appreciate all the work you're doing here in the city.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks.